So here we go again. Another Six Nations is upon us. It just feels like yesterday that the Autumn Nations had finished, but we're straight back in to fancy Six Nations again. And these videos on my channel always seem to get lots of viewership and lots of you really enjoy it. So it's my favourite time of year and I'm sure it's yours. The fancy game is now live, so click the link in the description down below and join the league. Obviously we've got some really tasty fixtures coming up over the course of the Six Nations, but I've also seen a lot of you from last year have also got in my league already, so that's really great to see. Thanks so much for all of you for joining. Here they are, but as I said, link down in the description if you want to come join the league. And in today's video we'll be looking at the best players in each position for fantasy rugby. And this year for the upcoming Six Nations we have a sponsor in Fanzo and their Guinness Pint Predictor. So essentially the Guinness Pint Predictor is a predicting game, and all you have to do is obviously choose who you think is going to win or whether it's going to be a draw, and then the margin of victory. Depending on if you get it right or however many margin you get it right by, then you can win free pints of Guinness or other cool free prizes as well. This is all completely free, and I'd be really grateful if you could all, I guess, just download the app and join the league, JG Rugby. It's also just a bit of fun. I know most of you guys like the fantasy game as it is, so it would be really cool and it would really help the channel out if you could download the free Fanzo app and yeah, join the Guinness Pint Predictor with my league, JG Rugby. I'll be doing it, so hopefully we can win some pints and other cool free prizes. Also, with regards to the sponsor in Fanzo, I couldn't have done this without you guys. For all the views and all of you who have subscribed. The views I've got over the past, I think it's probably a few years now, has just been pretty crazy really, especially with fantasy rugby. So it's all down to you guys for this sponsor, and yeah, just really appreciate it. So if you are subscribed, great and thank you, but if you haven't subscribed, you know what to do. Please subscribe to the channel. So let's get straight into it. So first of all, it's one of the best props I think in this year's game is Ellis Genge. He is 16 stars, which is actually very high for a prop. However, with Steve Borthwick coming in, and obviously Ellis Genge being the ex-Leicester captain who actually took them to Premiership victory, I think Ellis Genge will have a massive role to play for England, even more so under Eddie Jones. We obviously know that he can carry all game, but I just think that he's just going to be such a dominant force, and if England do start to click, then Ellis Genge will surely be at the forefront of that. So even though it's 16 stars, which is expensive for a prop, I think he is a must in everyone's team. So next, in hooker, I've actually gone with Ken Owens, which might be a little bit of a surprise. So obviously we all know that he's been made captain of Wales over the likes of Justin Tipuric and Alwyn Jones. But there are the likes within the hooker position at least, like Dan Sheehan, Julian Marchand, who are more expensive than him and probably looks like a better option on paper. But I think if Wales do find their form again with Gatland, then Ken Owens is going to be a massive part of that. Obviously, Dewi Lake, the backup hooker, has been injured and will be out, I think, for the first few weeks of the Six Nations. So if Ken Owens can stay fit, I think he's going to get pretty good game time, probably 70, even 80 minutes most games. So I think that's a real shout. Obviously, you've got Dan Sheehan, Julian Marchand for France and Ireland, who will obviously have a great Six Nations. But I think Ken Owens is a pretty solid option and maybe who I'm looking at to start the fantasy. So next is in the second row, and I've gone with Tyke Byrne. Now, if anyone watches him, for whether that be for Munster or Ireland, he literally plays like a back row. His turnovers are ridiculous. I think he had the most turnovers within the Autumn Nations and even maybe the Six Nations last year. So he's pretty dependable, and to be honest, second row is always a pretty weird position. Itoje is actually the most expensive second row, and for a few years now he hasn't got great points. Maybe because England aren't firing, but I think Tyburn is a really decent option. Great turnovers, great carrying ability, and obviously Ireland are expected to win most games. France and Ireland will probably be the Grand Slam decider, but with France absolutely firing, I think it's a no-brainer. Now, the back row is obviously a huge part of fantasy rugby. A bit like Tyburn, massive carrying ability, huge turnovers, and also tries scored, which is massive. Obviously, you've got Josh van der Flier, who was World Player of the Year in 2022, so he's obviously at the top for the amount of stars you have to pay for him. However, I've gone with Greg Aldrich because he just seems to always get through 15, 20 carries a game, and also the same amount of tackles as well. And if I'm being honest, I think France will probably win the Six Nations again, and I just think he's going to be a massive part of that. Obviously, La Rochelle won the European Champions Cup last season as well, and he's their captain, so he's going to have a massive part. He's also only 16 stars, which is the same as Ellis Genge, so if you think about it, for a back row, I think that's a pretty good cheapish option for the price that you're getting. Van der Flier's 18, Faletau's 17, and then Hamish Watson 16, Don Brandt 15. So I think that's pretty reasonable, especially for a really solid option who I think is a mainstay in my fantasy team. So at scrum half, we aren't getting any cheap options here. It's bang on the most expensive player, Antoine Dupont, and probably quite rightly. I think the nines that France have picked in this year's Six Nations squad are pretty inexperienced, obviously compared to Dupont. So I think again he's going to get amazing game time. And also other 9 options are Gibson Park, Ali Price, Ben Youngs. But if I'm being honest, I don't think they're all that nailed on. Definitely not Ben Youngs with obviously Van Poortvliet. So I think Dupont is definitely the most solid option. Obviously he's 5 stars more than any other 9 in the game. But look, it's Antoine Dupont, so I think he's definitely going to be worth it. At fly half, I've gone with Johnny Sexton. So obviously if Sexton is fit, he is that driving force in Ireland's side. It's just, I guess, the case, is he going to be fit for the whole Six Nations, or will he have a game off due to some injury? You never know. He is getting on. This will be his last Six Nations, so he will want to go out with a bang. I just think he's such a great driving force for Ireland, and I don't see anyone, maybe apart from France, stopping them. Other options here was obviously Marcus Smith, Finn Russell, and Tamak as well. Also bigger, to be honest. But yeah, I just think Sexton is a class above, and yeah, he kicks points. He actually carries really well, gets good carrying points as well. So for me, it was a toss-up between Sexton and Smith, but I don't think Smith is as nailed on as everyone thinks. So we'll just have to wait and see for that one. In the centres, best player I've gone with is Gary Ringrose. So a bit like Sexton really, bit of a mainstay in the Irish side. His carrying ability and points are through the roof. He obviously gets in that outside channel so well, beats defenders for fun, and also gets a few tries here and there too. And just like Sexton, he'll obviously be such a driving force for Ireland, and to get them good gain line success as well. Other options here, obviously Farrell is a centre in the fantasy game, but could play 10. But also Gael Fickou, right? He's absolutely insane. He's probably going to be nailed on for that 13 jersey for France as well, so it would be a great test when Ireland do face France against Fickou and Ringrose. And then finally, for the back 3 best player, I have gone with Damien Penaud. So if he can stay fit as well, I think he just offers France such a different scope to anything that they have. He's such, I guess, like a rangy runner. Not like a flair of like a Cheslin Colby or Kurtley Arenther. He just does the basics really well and gets over that try line so often. Obviously there's tons to pick from in the back three. James Lowe is a scoring machine. Stuart Hogg for Scotland is obviously a driving force for them. But Hugo Keenan, Mac Hansen as well. And then you've got Freddie Stewart, who obviously made it into the World Team of the Year last year. So there's some pretty big names in the back three, but I think with France being front runners for winners and Grand Slam at the tournament, I think if Penaud stays fit and is on that pitch for 80 minutes, then the rate of tries that he's going to score, he might obviously become top try scorer. So I think it's a pretty decent option. Is quite expensive at 18, but I think it'd be worth it. So I guess they're my top players in each position going into this year's Six Nations. Obviously really expensive, they're the best players, right? So they're going to be. Let me know down in the comments if you would change anyone, or if you think one of my, say, back three players I've missed out on, like a Reece Samet. So let me know down in the comments who you think your best players are for each position. I'll also be bringing out the best cheap players in each position, which is always a really good thing to look at, because obviously we have a budget, and cheap players do fascinate me, because normally you just look on the first or second page for positions, but actually there's some real gems this year. So stay tuned for that video in the coming week, and like I said, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. All of you who have viewed and subscribed to the channel already have really helped out, and I can't thank you all enough. I'm super excited for this year's Six Nations. Join the league down below, and I'll see you in the next one.